Hit this record button. All right. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Blackout Tips podcast. I'm your host, Rod, joined as always by my co-host,
Karen.
and we're live on a Tuesday, ready to do some podcasting, rush hour podcasting for y'all driving home from work, somehow watching this video, but also hopefully paying attention to the road. Maybe at stoplights, maybe you got the phone turned down, but the volumes up. I don't know. There's a lot going on out there in the world. I don't. Who am I to judge? Just be careful. At any rate, if you're listening to this later, you already know we have a guest. Today's guest is a podcaster, stand-up comedian, friend, whose new stand-up special, Rini, or Rini, is if you want to pronounce it the correct way, drops on YouTube tomorrow, 11:19 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the homie Myq Kaplan is what they call him when no one that he doesn't know about. What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, finally. This is the first time that I felt the most seen. Nobody has ever called me by my true name, Myq Kaplan. Here, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here. Love the love in the chat. I like when Rod, when you said, I hope if you're driving home, you're not watching. Somebody wrote, I'm not watching, but they are texting while they're driving.
Right.
So don't worry. I'm being safe in one way, and I'm telling you.
Doing like a speaking thing where they, type of thing.
All right, y'all be careful out there on the road, okay? I don't want to be the reason anybody's going, going home to the hospital or going to the hospital or something.
No wrecks on our behalf.
Mike, how's tricks?
Thank you for asking. Tricks are good, or tricks is good. It depends. I'm excited to be here. I love talking to y'all. I know that frequently it happens when I have something big to share about, but I'm always, here's the thing. I know our history is such that, I came on your podcast probably for the first time, could be 10 years ago. And then in 2017 or so, I was like, hey, can I come back? And then just for whatever reason, it slipped through the cracks and we didn't talk for years. And then in 2020, I was like, hey, can I come back? And you were like, I thought you were mad at me for 3 years. And now since then, I'm always happy to come back. I mean, in fact, I'm not worried about this, but I would be more concerned, truly, whatever. I feel like different people have different communication libidos, and I have a high one. I am in touch with a lot of people who I care about, a lot of good friends. And what is a good friend? Sometimes it's a friend you've known for a long time. Sometimes it's a friend that you speak to frequently. Sometimes it's just somebody that you feel a kinship with regardless of how long you've known them or how frequently you speak to them. And so regardless of how frequently we speak and how long we've known each other, which is now going on quite a long time, I am always happy to be here. And I put it forth truly as often as you would have me, I'm not going to ask to become a member of your marriage, but I would be here, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, on any basis. So I'm happy that I'm here right now. That's one of the ways that tricks are.
I think it's interesting that one, you are what I like to call a communication ethical slut. You're out in these streets, okay? If you guys have ever met Myq Kaplan and got on his email list, you're getting something from him at least once a month.
Yes.
Sometimes on special occasions as well.
Yes.
And it's always inviting you to respond if you would like to, but if you just want to wait till the next month and get another one of these, you're welcome to do that.
Yes.
And then all the time I see things that specifically make me think of Mike. I'm sure a lot of people do. But it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna text Mike this funny bumper sticker or this, there, I forget what the last thing was, but there was a sign on a building that was like a repair building, but the sign was broken. I was like, this Mike would get the irony and the humor in this.
Yes,
I
would completely understand that. Our optometrist looks just like you. So
that is true too.
Every time I go get my eyes checked, I always think of you. I'm not even gonna lie.
That's so sweet. Oh, can I say real quick? I would love to have, I don't know if you have a photo, it's not urgent, but at some point we should have a photo, put up a photo of your eye doctor and of me, and then go camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2.
I really should. You know what? Next time I see him, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask him, can I take a picture of him? Because he not just reminds me of you in the way he looks, but he's also extremely thorough in explaining stuff.
Yes.
And he still gets excited about explaining the same stuff, which is a very Myq Kaplan-esque like feature, to be able to give it the same energy the 1,000,000th time that you're doing it. He's like, oh, and you might need bifocals because our eyes do get a little and I'm like, he told me the same thing last year, but I'm just as intrigued.
And if you want to, you can buy focals. You can get them for free if you have insurance. You can get those free focals. Yeah. However you want to get your focals, you're gonna need some focals though. At least one focal, if not buy.
That's exactly
polyfocal. Yeah.
And like if you ask him a question like about the eye, he goes into like all these details like to the T, and he'll tell you like, we got this new test where we don't have to have drops in your eyes, but you have to pay a little bit extra, type of stuff like that. And for me, every time I go, because I get my eyes checked yearly, and he's surprised every time I come back, like, there's nothing wrong with your eyes, but you keep coming back. He said, most people see me once they start having vision problems. I'm like, no, I want to catch you in advance. Like, my glasses are more so I can see tiny print, like, I'm not blind, type of thing. And so it's hilarious because he always asks me, do you want to get contacts? And I'm like, no, I don't like poking in my eyes. Like, I want them people. When I do eye drops, I'm like this, and I consistently miss my eye. So I know I can't do contacts. He asks me every year the same question.
The real contact you're trying to avoid is your finger touching your eyeball.
Yeah. I love that. I had glasses since I was 9, so I also go to the eye doctor once a year. It is good to go to the eye doctor once a year for the very reason that you're talking about. It's important to prevent problems before they start, or learn when a problem starts. So I like that you're able to see. You're basically seeing the glass as half full or fully full. Right now, you're fully full of being able to see the glass. That's how good your eyesight is. You're an optometrist. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and when she first got it done, I was the person that had to tell her, we have eye insurance, why aren't you using it?
Yes, because
she's like, because I don't need glasses. I'm like, they do more than that. They go, they do like macular vision tests. They check for cancer and retina and things like degenerative diseases that may be coming that you can start doing something about. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and then she starts telling the story as if it was all her idea now. Right? I was not.
Of course, I'm taking credit now. Roger been wearing glasses since he been a kid, right?
The years of me advocating doesn't mean anything. But you can say that she now has 20/20 hindsight on her on what she should have been doing the whole time.
Yes, I do.
Delightful. What's yours is yours. What's y'all's is y'all's. Your idea is her idea. Eventually, it was your idea, but then ideas can spread. Like that's a positive idea that you.
And she's the best kind of evangelistic person, because she does something one time. It can be today. She started a new thing. She can already proselytize about it, which I don't have that in me. Like I need to build up a resume of change before I'm like, what y'all need to do is go to the gym. It's like, how long have you been going to the gym? 5 minutes ago. But that we're not asking that, but we all should be on it, don't we agree? And speaking of Myq, you said 10 years. It's been 12 years.
Wow.
You were first on our show June 9th, 2013.
Wow.
I'm sorry. June 5th, 2013.
Even longer.
Episode 485.
485. We was 3 digits.
This episode needs no title was the title of this episode.
I must have told you about the book I read called This Book Needs No Title, or else that was an idea that somebody else had that I made my idea,
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you this, when you come on, these titles are clever. I'm not tooting our own horn, but I feel like we vibe off each other and we get some fun titles. 640 comedians on the bus getting robbed. I don't know.
Yeah.
That made me want to listen to it.
Somebody got
That's-
robbed.
20
I think you're 100% right. I feel like, have I ever told you this? I feel like maybe I have. We've talked a lot over the years, but I had this this safe, when I was a kid, like a safe with a combination, but it was a kid's safe, so it only had a 1-digit combination. So even if you didn't know the number, you could just hold down the release button and then spin the dial, and when it gets to the number, it would open up. And I think about that metaphorically, like, you move through life. Some people are open-hearted, open-minded, loving, and just like, just curious and inquisitive. And I feel like y'all have that. And I feel like it's like holding down the open button on your heart, And so when you spin the dial by going through the world and meeting other people, you're like, oh, when you meet another person who's holding down that open dial on their heart, you're like, wow, this opens us both up. So like there's people, I have friends who like I used to call when calling was a thing that was allowed. And, you call a friend and I would leave a voice message, and some friends, I would just leave like 3-minute voice messages because I'm imagining them listening. And it takes me on like a journey across this playground, this amusement park of ideas.
I appreciate that. I love voicemails. I want them people that actually do listen to voicemails. I know people don't leave
voice messages.
Yeah. It's like, so if you leave me a voice message, even the robots and all that stuff, I actually will actually listen to it and determine,
I'm very fluid with mine. Like I have group chats where we flip back and forth, like based on like what's happening, especially if something gets like intense. And I don't mean intense like arguing, but just you need to deliver this with more intensity than a text can do. And you're like, or, and I kind of like that it goes in and out. And now with the voice messages, you can kind of like save them for later. They do the like transcript of them.
I like the transcript.
Like, yeah. So like but when I get the voice note, I know like, oh, you meant this shit. Let me see what this is.
I've started recently when I get a voicemail or a voice message from like, a particular loved one, like my mother, for example, if it's like a really like, like iconic like version of like a call from my mom, like my mom is in her 70s now, and I'm sure she's gonna live forever, but just in case, at some point, I'm like thinking ahead to be like, when will I want to, like, I had her on my podcast, like, but I like to have these recordings of like, that I can go back and listen to, and so I'll just like send it to my email, and then I'm like, okay, great. So it's a great tool. It's a great, use of technology that we can have at our disposal. But my point is just that talking with y'all, it's like, it's familial, I feel like, like long lost cousins, like close cousins, not just like Gary Goldman used to have a joke where he would say a cousin is basically a coincidence. Like, oh, we have the same grandparent. Cool. But there's a way in which, the bear, the way they say like cousin, it's like brother, like sibling, it's like close connection. And because it is,
and honestly, it's like I can't speak for every race, but definitely for Black people, cousin means something closer to like brother or sister.
It does.
Like if you like, even to the point where like if you have a good friend when you're a kid, you just call him your play cousin.
Yes, you do.
Like you don't just be like, that's my friend from up the block. You're like, oh, that's my play cousin. I don't know why that's a thing maybe it's a Southern thing or whatever. But so like, I do take what you mean as like when you say that cousin, because like I said, I think of you fondly. And the weird hang up of that thing was, I dropped the ball and I got in my own head about not replying to Myq fast enough. And by the time I went to reply back, because I kept being like, I'll reply to him tomorrow. He said his special's not coming out for however long or whatever. Like, we'll plug it in it. And then I looked up and it was past the date. And I was like, oh, God, I fucked up so bad. And I created a mic that doesn't exist. The mic, Monster Myq is what I call this mic. And he's not real, but in my mind, Monster Myq was like, he was going on long pontificating soliloquies about how I did him dirty. And then each time I would be like, well, maybe I should reach out now. And it's like, no, I fucked that up. That you'll never fix it. And the second we even communicated about it, it was a very informative lesson. It was a very formative lesson too, because it was like, oh, this was all in my head. That was anxiety talking, which I went to therapy to deal with. And also it was kind of like, oh, you can create any image of a person when you don't have. It's Schrodinger's friend. I created a bad version. I could have created a great version of Myq who's like, who gives a fuck about that, man? Let's just like hang out again. We don't got to do anything. And so since then, I've always extended that. Hey, you can come on anytime. You typically only pick when you got to promote something, but that's fine
It could
too.
be rando.
But I love that.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I want to say these two things. One, you were worried that you didn't get back to me fast enough. And let me just say, almost no one can get back to me fast enough. The way that I move is so fast. And I had one other thing. It's like, clearly, yeah, here's me. This is me. Like, I think, we each have our own, issues. Like, some people might tend towards more depression than anxiety, some more anxiety than depression. Some people, wallow in the past. Some people worry about the future. And we all do some version of this, like, at various times. But I remember a thing that I say sometimes in comedy, like, sometimes like a person gets up to leave the room, like while I'm on stage, and like I'll be like, okay, they're going to the bathroom, right? And that's just my general, like, I'll just assume they're going to the bathroom. Like, even if they're like, hey, I want to let you know that I'm leaving because I don't like the show, I don't like the comedy, and that's why I'm leaving. I don't have to go to the bathroom to adjust it. I guess I know that you might think that, you might convince yourself of that, but I'm leaving because you are bad and I don't like it. And then they leave, and I'll be like, they really had to shit. You know what I mean? Like, that is like, you can't get me. Like, even if you do, like, I'll listen when you tell me, but like, if I have no information, if I have any capacity of reading it generously, because also I might not always be right, but it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy more often than not. Like, believe you can or believe you can't. Either way, you'll be right. If you believe that you can't enough, then that'll become true. If you believe you can enough, then that'll become true, at least more often than if you believe it the other way. So why not create the positive monster? Create the money Myq, not the monster Myq.
Yeah, exactly. That's and I think also that was a gift to myself, the idea of the positive vacuum, the thing of like, I don't know this information, could be great information. Like, like, why am I assuming that it's hard? It's like, not that I like this, I hate when people do this, but it's like if someone goes, man, we really need to talk, I could fill that void with like, this is going to be terrible, or I could fill that void with, this is going to be great. And it is interesting that in my lifetime, that has not always been bad. Like, the anxiety and the dread is bad on my side, but many times we need to talk, or we need to have a meeting has been, you're getting a raise, or it's time for performance reviews, you've been doing great, or just some innocuous thing like, hey, we need to talk, so-and-so is going on leave, and we need you to cover a shift or something. And in my mind, however long it took till we got to that conversation was like, oh my God, I'm going to get murdered. I'm going to walk in there. It's going to be like Goodfellas. They're going to shoot me in the back of the head, and that's going to be the end of my life.
And put you down for good.
Yeah.
We should, I mean, if we can try to not, here's the thing, is because I think we need to talk has been normalized by society as we need to talk about a bad thing. We need to break up. Things aren't working, whatever it is. So we need to maybe help swing the pendulum back in the other way to make because like, I love talking. I talk for a living. Y'all talk for a living. We need to talk. Talking.
Yes.
We need to talk because that's how humans, a communal creature, commune with one another. Because if we don't talk, then we don't know what's going on with you. We need to talk because I'd love to know what you want for your birthday. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to get? I don't know. I can't read your mind. We need to talk.
That's true. It's a gift, man. So you have recently recorded a special that is coming out tomorrow, if you're listening to this live. It is named Rini. I just happened to notice, this is a crazy coincidence, your girlfriend's named Rini. I don't know if you knew that.
Hold on a second. Let me check notes. Yes, that's correct. My
Does the title have something to do with that?
That's a great question. What if the answer was no? It's really a weird coincidence. They just assign the titles. I'm like, wow, Rini, we got a Rini. We got Rini and you're Rini. Riot is Rini. Yes. So the title actually shifted many times over the years. There was two different titles in advance. One because the show shifted, and we came up with we thought a better title for what the show was representing. And then I learned that the title we chose, the second title that is not the title, which is Rini, was called Before We Get Started. The first title was Imperfect, but with a capital P, so it also looks like I'm perfect, because the original show was less about Rini and my relationship with Rini and more about my own like growth and going, ideally from imperfect to I'm perfect, or, sort of the bouncing back between those two. And then we were like, okay, this show is about, we started working on it together, collaborating, creatively. And so we both, co-wrote the show. And so it's about our relationship and how we've been together almost 10 years now, and we are not married. And a lot of times when people hear that, they're like, well, when are you going to get started? Like, obviously, like, you're wasting time, as though if we lived together unmarried for 100 years, they'd be like, and then we die, we're not going to die. We're going to stay thousands of years, whatever it is. But at a certain point, if we never got married, and then the universe ends, then whoever's there in the next universe is like, man, pretty a shame they never began their relationship. They never officially got that paperwork, which is now gone in the extinguished suns of all time. But the point is that people are like, oh, as if all of our relationship has happened before we got started. But then a friend of mine, Ryan Reese, had been working on a documentary also called Before We Get Started, because he works as a warm-up comedian. So that's a perfect name for a documentary about warm-up comedy, Before We Get Started. And I'd had him on my podcast, and we'd talked about it, and I'd forgotten that was the title of his documentary, because it was years earlier. And I was like, oh, hey, man. When I found out, I was like, it looks like we got the same title. And he's like, but I told you about that 5 years ago. And I was like, right. And I listened back to my podcast episode. I'm like, there I am saying that's the name of his thing. Absolutely. You got me. So then we got started after that on just like, well, then what's the best name for this show? What is this show about, if not Before We Get Started? And, my name's already it's Myq Kaplan. It's a Myq Kaplan comedy special. I'm there, but it is, equal parts created by and about Rini. So we're like, Rini, no, there's no comedy specials out there already named Rini, are there? And we didn't do an extensive look, and I hope there aren't, but I think this is the #1 comedy special named Rini, and it is named because that is Rini's name, and you asked me in a funny way that led to this conversation. Thank you.
What if Chris Rock comes out with a special like tonight, and it's like Rini for no reason? He's just
no, that would be.
He had Tambourine.
Tambourine. Oh no, that's Rini Tambourine. That would Chris Rock.
I haven't seen you in person and talked to you and all this stuff. I feel like your stand-up specials would have 20 backup titles like already, even. So is coming up with a title difficult? Is it a thing you get locked into early and then go, okay, I'll construct a special around this idea? Or is it fluid? Because it sounds like you went from imperfect, I'm perfect to Before We Get Started to now Rini. Like, how fluid are your titles to your stand-up specials?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it evolved over the years, like, because, earlier on, my albums were not necessarily themed. So like the first one, Vegan Mind Meld, isn't all about being vegan, isn't all about mind melding. There's like one joke in it that mentions that line. I'm like, that's a funny line. And I think kind of says something about who I am and the kind of comedy that I do. Like, it isn't like what the show is about, but it says something. And then Meet Robot was my second title that I came up with for my next album. That was named because I have this digital recorder that I record my ideas into, which I call Robot. And then so whenever I say something funny, a friend might be like, hey, you should record that in Robot. And one day Robot wasn't working. Like, I'd run out of batteries, and they were like, but you just said something funny. How are you going to record it? And they're like, I guess you're going to have to hold on to it in Meat Robot, and just pointed at the old brain. And we're all kind of meat robots in a way. And then the next one was Small, Dork, and Handsome, which just, again, name has nothing to do with the actual content of the hour, but it does have something to do with the content of me. And the first album that I did feel like the title represented the material well was No Kidding, because it was an album about not wanting children. And then after that, it was AKA, which was originally going to be titled All Killing Aside, but it came out at the beginning of the pandemic. And because of that, we probably talked about it. We were like, maybe, in 2 months into the pandemic, not putting out an album like that front and center, even though it's all killing aside and the hour is about not murdering and not death and, about love and kindness. But like people sometimes just don't read the article. They just look at the headline. They're like, killing, no, thank you. And so we're like, okay, AKA. So I feel like there is a lineage of, there's a history of coming up with, having to sort of, that one actually, the title All Killing Aside, I didn't even come up with. I brought the show to Edinburgh, and my manager, Dave Rath, is a really funny, smart guy, and he was the one who came
even
up
with
with
the
that.
last name Rath. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no W's, so it's an ironic name. Yeah, he's good, but I'll say a related topic is I love when I've put out, probably close to 10, I think I've at least 9 albums, and specials total, like 9 hours of comedy that I've created and then recorded. And then I have to come up with, or get to come up with, track listings. I love coming up with track listings because that's like, I mean, the title of the whole project is like a bigger, not like pressure, but a bigger, the stakes are higher. Like this is what everyone's going to see. Like, can it represent the entire thing? But for each album track, like in the beginning, I was just like, oh, this one's about, I don't know, Brad Pitt and divorce. This one's about tigers and open relationships. This one's about, beaches and balls, and so it's like fun to like, you get to make an extra joke with each track that you name if you want to, or it's just fun to like be like, it's about this and that, I think one was about like Batman and vampire, so I was like, it's about Batman and non-Batman, or different kinds of Batman.
I love the granular like title stuff. And also like I think that's kind of what not separates, that's not fair, but I think the when you're really nerdy, when you're really in your groove, like I love Kendrick Lamar. He's probably my favorite rapper right now. And one of the things I love about him is that every album's kind of a puzzle.
It is.
And
it requires multiple listening.
Yeah, and like a puzzle in the way where like you can't really go too deep, like even the most weirdest thought that you're having is like, he may have meant that. You should probably like go double check that work. I just saw recently his last album, the double album, not GNX, but before this, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which is I think one of the most important albums of our time. But it's a double album, and each album has like the same number of tracks. And if you like take the tracks and line them up next to each other and then reverse the order, the last song is named Mirror, and it's a mirror of the first track. Like it's one side is like how the world is, and then the other side is how he is as a person, because his belief and the therapist that he has on the philosopher therapist he has on different interludes is the world is a mirror of us and we're a mirror of the world. And I'm like, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. Make me work. Like I know some people just want to like listen to the album and that's it. But like I kind of enjoy that part of my brain tickling.
That's how I've listened to music. Like whenever I get into like an album that I really like, I am the person, and I've done this with a lot of artists. I will sit and I will listen to the album from like beginning to end. Then for me, sometimes I will listen to that same album, just me, for months on end. And a lot of times I feel like, for me personally, depending on the artist, each time I get a better, Kendrick, I have to do this with, you get a better understanding. Things start to kind of link together. You start having more ebbs and flows. I know I like when I like something and I know I won't understand it the first time. I
like that. Yeah. I know some people, that's a huge turn off, and that's like literally what makes something suck to them.
Yes.
And I hear you. You're allowed to have that experience, but sometimes it's like I can't even really relate, because I'm like, no, that's when I knew I was gonna like be listening to this forever.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? Like, number one, the album that I put out in 2020, AKA, also has like a fun, like that's basically the album is an entire sort of conceptual palindrome, like it's Inception themed. And if you look at the track listings, every track has three words or three concepts in it, and they kind of mirror each other. So I don't know if Kendrick took my idea, but the point is that the middle one is Inception. Like, I know, parallel thinking, perhaps. Maybe he's just a mirror of me.
He owes you a Grammy, is what I'm hearing. He owes you at least one of his Grammys.
Or a Pulitzer. I'll take the Pulitzer if he wants to hold on to the Grammys. But the point is, I think some of I love what you're saying. I really appreciate that. It reminds me also of some of the greatest art is stuff that like a child can experience and appreciate in one way, and then later the adult version of yourself, like the Muppets. Like, a child can love the Muppets because it's like talking, dancing, singing, socks, and we're like, it looks. It's so great. Like, I just watched, maybe we talked about this because it came like sometime in the past couple of years, the Muppets, the Mayhem, just that, I don't know if you guys watched that Mayhem series. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, it's touching. And like, I'm sure, like, there's things in it that a child might not understand as well, but a child can get it. And because it's the sort of thing that a genius, like somebody who's like an expert in something, like often has the capacity to explain super complicated topics, like as though to a 5-year-old, and then can make it accessible and understandable in a more universal way. And so I feel like that's what, like, genius artists like Kendrick are doing.
I think there's a level of genius too, that like you can take this at any level.
Yes.
Which is like, I think is probably the hardest work to do. Like, because you could make something super heady and like, this is just for the super smarts, nobody else is gonna get this, and that's okay. But there's a level of ability to saying like, this is for super smart people, but also it can help make you super smart. Like, the further you dig, the more you'll get out of this thing. And like you said, it's such a talent, and it's such a rare talent to be able to possess all those different lenses of looking at your own art and go, well, if a person's coming at it from this angle, I would like them to experience this part of it. But it's always super impressive. And yeah, movies, things that when you watch when you were young, you saw one way, and then you experience them when you're older, and it's like a completely different way. That is also like another like beautiful part of life, of just like recontextualizing something and being like, oh wait, this whole thing was about divorce the whole time or whatever.
Yep, I had no idea.
I just thought they were trying to find their way home or whatever.
It's like when I was a kid, I watched Ghostbusters, but it wasn't until I was an adult that I was like, they were women this whole time. This is incredible. Like, this is about gender. This is important. This is societal. But I also feel like, as a comedian, like, I started out, in my early 20s, and I had, because there's like, with the Kendrick, idea of like the world and yourself, like, we're a part of the world, but we're a specific part of the world, that we're like a lens that we filter, our experience sensorially and mentally and physically. And the world seems like it's outside of us, but really, our consciousness is the thing through which everything is happening. But I didn't know any of this when I was starting out, and I was just like, this is fun. Like, these words sound weird. Like, these are things that I think are funny. This is what I think is meaningful. And you can, as a young comedian, especially as a less experienced comedian, you don't have the skills necessarily to translate everything from inside to a way that people will understand outside. And so I'm just like, blah, blah. And people are like, no, we don't understand, blah, blah. And I was like, but it's so good in here. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I was thinking like, maybe I'd like to write a book someday. But I was like, but I feel like I would have to tell everyone who was reading the book everything about my life story so that they would have all of the context for what I was talking about in the book. And that sounds like a lot of work. And of course, the work of being an artist, a comedian, a writer, a creator of any kind is figuring out what is important to tell. Like Picasso drew an image of a bull with like 5 lines. And we're like, oh, people are like, that's a bull. And he could do a complete photorealistic one. And that's amazing too. But part of his art was simplifying things to the point of abstraction, of almost not being able to tell what it is, but being able to tell. And like, that's to say something in like, here's one quick other story.
Mhm.
My friend Gus, a practicing Buddhist, he told me a story once that he had a Buddhist mentor, like a Buddhist teacher, come over to his house, and kind of as a fun thing, he was like, "Oh, I have this really thick book of like Buddhist wisdom, and I'll leave this thick book of teachings out on the coffee table, so maybe he'll see it and he'll be like, wow, look at that big book. You must be learning a lot about Buddhism. What a good guy. Wow, you're a good Buddhist student." And the mentor does see it, and he picks it up and he's like, wow, interesting. This is for children, because in that paradigm, he's like, a child needs everything explained bit by bit, but the books for, the advanced students are like the thinnest, because you've already got the context. So like Picasso, like the fewest lines, if you get it, you get it. You know.
It's kind of like the Big Dipper, I imagine. The first person to be like, "That's a dipper." And they're like, "What? What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, what are you dipping? Yeah.
Yeah, those 5 stars right there, dude. That's the Big Dipper. That's the Little Dipper. You gotta look over there. But they figured it out.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
With this special that you were doing, when we heard you on, I listened to you on Keith and the Girl, and you were talking about how Rini helped you, and you were saying how she would like critique like the things that you were doing on stage, and and things like that. How did you kind of internalize that? Like, because, and the reason why I'm asking is because you're actually the one on stage and they're not, like, not trying, like, not and it's come from 2 different perspectives, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So how did you internalize that and use that in a positive way? Because I know for some people they would consider that a critique, or not telling them what to do, or some people's pride will hop in. How dare you tell me how to do my job that I've been doing for for this long?
Yeah. Were there things that you felt more like standing firm on,
Right.
or was everything kind of like, hey, whatever you say, it goes?
Right.
That's a great question. Thank you. Very generous and thoughtful. I will say that we've come to a way of doing things over probably, started this creative collaborative process maybe in like 2018, the first time that we went to the Edinburgh Fringe together, and I was doing the show that would become AKA, and she would, kind of just take notes. And she is absolutely, she's not, a harsh mistress, she's not like, it's gotta be like, it was often a question, like a curiosity of like, she would notice, this night you did it this way, the next night you did it this way. What's the difference? Or like, sometimes she'd be like, I think I like it this way for this reason. I feel like this is like one of the choruses of the song that I continue to sing while I talk about this process on different podcasts is, she has said she is not a comedian. She doesn't want to be a comedian because she likes jokes to make sense. And that's the thing that isn't always the case. Sometimes I'm just like, how about this nonsense? And it works.
Right.
But then sometimes she'll ask the question of like, but what if it also could be as funny, like the same thing, like can it be the Muppets and Picasso? Can it be, Kendrick Lamar and, the thing that will entertain people of all ages? Can it make sense and be as funny? And at first I was like a little afraid, I feel like, or I was like concerned. I'm like, it works like this, and I don't want to like tinker with it, because what if we take it apart and try to put it back together different? And it's like, what am I losing? It's like the people who worried about like, but what if female Ghostbusters will ruin my child? I'm like, you can keep watching that movie. What ruins your childhood is your attitude and aging. You can keep we're not destroying all the old copies. And so I would, in the beginning, I was like, okay, I guess, because she is wise and kind, and she knows me and cares about me and knows who I am both on and off stage. Like, I definitely don't take it as a criticism. We did have a part of the process was initially, this was a very handy way of looking at things. Maybe we've talked about this. If somebody comes to you for advice, or somebody comes to you with a problem and you don't know if they want advice, some people they just want to unburden. And so the idea, some people want a cheerleader, some people want a coach. Some people might want a cheerleader at one point. If you're like, hey, I already sent this in, can you just tell me that it's good, right? If you're like a writing submission. But sometimes you're like, I'm sending this in tomorrow. Can you help me brutally, honestly make it better? Because I want it to be the best that it can, even if it could hurt don't worry about hurting my feelings, because I want to make this art, this project, the best that I can. And so our our process now is, generally speaking, after a show, the show finishes, it's night, we're, hooray, it happened, however it went, we go, it's cheerleader at night, and then the next day, then there can be coaching, like coach in the morning, cheerleader after, because then like after the show, it's like, well, I can't do anything about it now, but the next day, like with the notes, with the ideas, with like, oh, what if this idea, then like new possibilities can bloom and spark, and then we can collaborate and work together. And to your question of like, I would say most of the time, like I trust her, like not just, blindly, but I'm like, she has good ideas. And when she expresses them, I listen to them. And I'm like, even if I don't know how it's going to go, I'm like, I'll try that. As a comedian, you can try things night after night, show after show. And I'm like, I'll try it. And then we'll listen back. And every once in a while, there's something that we're like, in order for this to make the most sense, it has to be said in a way where like the funny word happens earlier, or like it becomes kind of a puzzle, because like we can see like, yes, this would be the most meaningful way to do it, but somehow this way might be funnier. Or sometimes I've just like, even in this particular show, there are things that I would say that like weren't urgent to include, but I just liked the way they sounded. I'm like, I like saying this. And so for some of them, like, well, I'm going to do that, even if it doesn't make sense. If Rini didn't have if she's like, okay, you feel strongly, go for it. Or sometimes if she's like, I feel strongly, like, that's not my favorite way, and it's our show. So, and so that, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. I feel like we both kind of have veto power that we don't frequently use, but if something is really strong for one of us, then we each will honor the other person's feelings in that way, and be like, look, I don't think we've ever had a situation where we both felt equally strongly about the same thing, like because I think we would be able to both, like, and I think if that was so, then I would say we would err on the side of taking it out or changing it, because we have so many wonderful, great, meaningful, hilarious ideas. Like if one makes one of us not feel the best way, then we don't need it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I always like that too. Coach in the streets, cheerleader in the sheets. We don't need to have it one way all the time. And
I think we have a title for this podcast.
We're gonna have so many by the end,
right?
Okay? We always do. It's gonna be like when you come up with a stand-up special title. It's gonna be 30 of these.
Oh yeah,
and I'll sit through and peruse at the end of the thing and be like, "What was the thing?" Now doing this special, how many times did you like work on it?
So this was probably more than, except for like the beginning of my stand-up career, where I started, let's say 2002, and recorded my first album in 2009. So 7 years working on that first 45 minutes, that first hour, which wasn't that I was doing that hour over and over. It was building it. And so, but other than that, that's like the longest I ever worked on one album, because you have to in the beginning. This one, just by happenstance, because there was a pandemic in the middle, and the way that it went, I would say we recorded, we taped AKA in 2019. And so that is when, like, I would say we officially started really like working more on the Rini show. Like, it existed in like some form, like some of the jokes, some of the bits, like I might have had in my act, in 2017 and 2018, but then they started to come together, and the idea to have it be the show about our relationship, that formed in, I would say, 2018, 2019. So, and then we filmed it in late 2024, so like a year ago. So it was at least like 5 years total, whereas most of my other albums and specials were like, could be 2 years, I'd say 2 to 3 years is like the standard. But because of the pandemic, I didn't perform it a lot during that time. And in fact, it was a really interesting process after starting to perform again. Like, I had to relearn it. Like, I truly, like the first time, I think I went to like DC, to the Arlington Cinema Draft House, in like June of 2021, maybe. And I was like, I want to do this show, but I had to like listen back to like multiple recordings of it and like take notes and be like, I know it starts like this, I know it ends like this, and I know these pieces are in the middle, but I didn't, it was so fluid because it wasn't in my muscle memory anymore, because it had been like a year and a half since I had even done it. But other than that, I would say, then I certainly from 2021 on, like that was the show that I was touring the most, though then I also started working on like the next show and the next show. So I wasn't only doing that show. Like I know I did in Edinburgh 2023, I did the show like 25 times in a row. And like that was the most like densely packed, versions of like doing that show over and over. And then like every other month, like by that point, I was like, I kind of know it. It's still like tweaks here and there. But if I was going to perform at a club, like, 5 shows over the course of a weekend, I wouldn't just do the Rini show all 5 times. I would maybe do it like, the early show each night, but not the late show. And I would like work on newer things or the other hour in the other show. But definitely, I would say every month, if on average I'm doing, two club weekends a month, which is maybe what it is. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. And if I'm doing, let's say, an average of 4 or 5 shows, let's say it's 2 a month, 5 shows each, so 10 shows a month. So from 2021 to 2024, let's say that's, and let's say it's 10 months a year. So it's just 100 shows, probably, hundreds of times.
Wow. Oh my God. And then that's not even counting just the spots that you do where you just like are coming around the city and like 10 minutes here, hop on a train, 10 minutes here. Like, so you were doing all this stuff at the same time. That's an insane amount of memory to have, to hold all that stuff. And I'm assuming since you filmed it last year, you've probably been doing a bunch of new stuff since last year too, right?
Yeah, since I don't think that I have performed the Rini show since we filmed it last year. Like a joke or two, like there's a little overlap of like some newer jokes that I have that where I also mention her, where I feel like literally one or 2 lines that maybe will make it into another show or maybe will, shed at a certain point. But yeah, I mean, right now I have like another show that I could record tomorrow, in some form. And then I have another one where all the pieces are there. And if somebody was like, you have a month, to get it into shape to record it, I could do that. Like one is about my relationship with masculinity. One is about my grandmother who died 5 years ago. And then I have a new idea that I just sort of had in the past few months for the next one, which I'm really excited about, which is just sort of about rules and like society's rules and our personal rules and like the neurotypical rules and like the guidelines for like different situations, socially or professionally or, romantically. And so that's just like, when I go on stage now, like, I mean, if I'm doing sets around New York City, like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, like I'll usually be working on some newer things. Like I'll usually have, a syllabus, or like a notebook full of like the new jokes, like just set lists that I want to work on that, sometimes I'll forget 1 or 2, but I'll be like, oh man, I really want to work on these 3 things and then sort of riff and expand. And the question of like, how do you remember everything is one that comes up a lot. And I always like to ask people, because I was talking to a fellow comedian the other day who's been doing it maybe like close to 10 years. And she's like, I've never gone on stage without like, either having like some jokes written on my hand or written like, on a napkin under my, just sort of as a security blanket. And that's a lot of people do that. Like I've seen Bill Maher specials where like from the back, you can see his jokes are like taped to the stage. And like, that's at the level of your record. And some people, film with a teleprompter, like that's not to say like when I did my Comedy Central half hour, they offered, we could have the jokes either bullet points or word for word in the teleprompter. I think I opted to have the bullet points just in case, be like, oh, here's what I just did. Here's what comes next. But the way that whenever somebody's like, how do you remember an hour's worth of jokes? I always ask this, like, do you have any songs memorized? Like you could sing Happy Birthday. You could sing the alphabet song. You probably have some favorites. You could sing the Beatles. You could sing Outcast, whatever you got, you could sing like, and how long is a song? Could be like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. You probably know 12 songs and you could sing 12 songs back to back. And then you have memorized an hour's worth of content. And this is even more so. These are songs that I have myself written and over the course of time put to put to memory by virtue of just doing it over and over again, like having
Well,
them
if
eventually
you're a
settle.
stand-up fan or a movie fan, how many of us have a whole stand-up hour or movie we know by
I
heart?
do. I do.
Yeah.
I have several of
I don't.
them.
I
Yeah.
could walk on in any scene of Half Baked, and from that point on, I can give you the whole every line of the movie. And I
Yes.
think it's when I used to rap, it was a similar thing of like I've done this so much at this point. Like we'd all be surprised if I didn't know. Like I'd be on stage like, how the fuck did that even happen? That's never happened before. So I definitely understand. It's just I think for me, having seen you in person, having watched your specials, you have a vibe that feels so extemporaneous. Like it feels like you're going a mile a minute and it's going so fast. I'm like, no one can memorize anything that goes as fast. It's like the remember Micro Machines?
Oh yeah, that guy.
Remember those commercials with that guy? He talked all fast, and I was like, he didn't memorize that script. He just talks like that. Like I expect you to go to his house and he's like, what's going on with your report card? You only got a D. Like I just expect everybody in his house to talk like that. Because how the fuck can anyone perform like that? And I feel like that's Myq Kaplan to me is it's interesting. I mean, obviously we've heard so many comedians explain their process, but it just feels like you're going you're like the rapper Twister or whatever. I'm like, yeah, you can't have the same process, but no, it's got to be similar or to the same because
Yeah.
it is the art.
Yeah, I would say, like, I mean, when I'm doing like live shows that aren't being recorded, where I'm, riffing and experimenting and, finding new things, like for the best kind of audience, where like I might have a plan, I might have some beats I want to hit or some topics I'm interested in, or like some joke ideas that are being fleshed out. But I make a lot of discoveries on stage. And so the kind of thing, like when you look at you listen to a full special or a full album, like that's gone through the process of what Rini calls the blooming phase, where, it's just like creating and creating and creating. And then eventually the pruning phase, where like, what is the actual final shape that this is going to come into? Like this one, but not that one, here, over there. And when you see me live, in between, when you see me not recording, like there's the blooming aspect of it, which might not have, like, I might not complete every parenthesis. Sometimes I listen back to a set and I'm like, oh, I started that idea and then I went over here and then I got distracted by something else. And then like I discovered it was really cool. But every once in a while at the end of a show, somebody's like, what about the thing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, thank you. I definitely
But it
do
also
want to get
is
to
like
the thing.
a skill to be in the moment too. Like that's part of what as an
skill.
audience brings you into it, is knowing like this isn't the exact same set that he's gonna do in another hour at another club. Someone dropped the glass and that he worked that into this, and that can't be a thing he had unless he knows that person or some weird shit like that.
Yeah, and art can be made in any direction like this. I don't know if you guys remember, have you watched much of Bo Burnham's works? Like early on, I think maybe this is from What, which is one of my favorites, like one of his, more recent but not most recent specials that's just so beautiful. And there's like a part in it that he did on Conan, I think it's from that, where like he knocks a bottle of water over seemingly accidentally, and then a track starts playing where it says like he meant to knock the water over, it's like art is a lie. And I think that like the thing, it's so interesting that like comedy and perception of comedy, stand-up specifically, has gone through so many iterations and incarnations, where like, years ago people would, audience members would be like, wow, like, so how often do you hear a child or somebody say, when I was a kid, I thought they were just making it up. Somebody just goes on stage and just starts talking about their life. And it's like a curated, honed, planned, like tight set that they've planned over years and years. And now people are on doing crowd work videos online, literally almost always. I mean, there's definitely some people who have like, pat jokes like ready to go if like a relationship thing comes up. But I think the most beautiful experiences that happen with crowd work, which aren't all happening on social media, but when crowd work
Right.
is good, when improvisation is real, like to see Rory Scovel on stage improvising, like he can improvise an hour of comedy, and there
Yeah.
can be like so many, it can all be wonderful, but there's certainly beautiful moments that if you're watching it, you might be like, he had to have come up with that before, like the exact opposite of how people used to think of it. They used to be like, oh, they're just coming up with it. Like, no, this guy is just coming up with it, and that's his art. That's his. And then he also,
you just watched Kev on Stage and Tony Baker.
Yes.
They do a show where the whole thing is they send a questionnaire out to the audience. You answer it on your phone, and then they bring you up with your answers and stories, and like they're riffing the whole time, like and
while you tell your story.
It's such a high wire act because you know when you add regular people
you don't know what
to
you're gonna get.
to any professional artistry,
it can go anywhere.
you know, that shit could easily go off the rails. But I mean, they masterfully handled that for probably 45 minutes of the hour they were and change they were on stage with just other people. And there's something about that level of talent to where you're like, oh man, you guys are so good. You're like a magician who's letting us know, like, no, I have to make it up. Like I don't have a choice. This can't be. I could not have come up with this before this person got here.
Right.
Oh yeah, I love that. I think that's the thing that is interesting about this, which reminds me of a thing. I'm listening to this book. Like this is going to be a long walk, but I'm listening to this audiobook by a woman named Tosha Silver called "Change Me Prayers," and it's she was talking about in the book. It's like, you know, a sort of spiritual self-help comedy, a lot of things. And she's like, I was at a concert at in like the third row, and there's a guy next to me. I'm talking to him before, and he's she learned that he paid only like $75 for tickets that should have cost $800. And she's like, how'd you do that? He's like, I came to the show. What I always do, I come to concerts early, like right before they're about to start. I ask at the ticket window, do you have any great seats? Just a single great seat for under $100. And like, if they're not going to sell it because the show's about to start, they're like, sometimes it works. And he's like, the secret is I don't have any investment in it. If they don't, then I just go have a good time by myself. Either I have a good time at the show and it's awesome, the best seat, or it's like I saw Cher in the third row this way, or I'm happy with myself if it doesn't work out. So the lesson is like, you can be in some situations like that happy either way. And so I think with those guys on stage, when you're dealing with the potential chaos, with the wild card of an audience member, you don't know what they're going to say, but here's the spectrum. Either they get it and they're going to give you what you want. Like if you ask them a question, they'll answer honestly. They're not going to try to be funny. They're not going to make it about themselves. They're going to just give you something that you can build off of, that you can bounce off of, that you can, you know, add to. Or on the other end of things, they try to be funny, or they try to make things difficult, or they are too drunk, or whatever it might be. And that's something that you can react to in a different way. Like either way, like wherever it is along the spectrum, if somebody gives you a boring answer, what a boring answer, the audience laughs. Other audience member up here. Like that's the thing about magicians, is like, you don't know what the plan is for a magician. And like has a plan for if the person does anything. Like, you know, they look for people that are going to be hopefully like easily hypnotizable if you're a hypnotist. But if it goes the other way, then you're just like, all right, thank you very much. And now, like, you didn't know, like, was it in their left pocket? Was it in their right pocket? Like, was it even gonna be a card trick? They might be thinking on the fly. They're like, oh, this person is going to enjoy this trick. And just when you do comedy long enough, or any art form or any performance long enough, especially if I mean, improvisation is magic. It's creating something from seemingly nothing. Like the show, some friends of mine do a show called Your Love, Our Musical. And the way it works, they interview a couple who's in love at the beginning of the show. They get who volunteers from the audience. Strangers, a couple comes up and they tell their love story for about 15 minutes. And then they're like, you know, same kind of thing, interacting, asking funny questions, making it fun, but also getting the true story. And then for the next 45 minutes, half hour to 45 minutes to an hour, they improvise a musical with a live band, like music that's never been created before, and rhyming lyrics and it ends with, like, you know, the love story that we just heard with, you know, in typical like Broadway fashion, and it's like
That's
I can
amazing.
I can do like I can improvise a song I can improvise a song if you want me to, but that's not what I'm gonna do, but like that's not with the instrumentation in the background, and like but when you work together as a band, as
Right.
musicians, as partners, like as those two were doing like on stage, like they are, you trust each other, how each
Right.
other work, and like you can, especially when there's two of you, if there's two of you, then you only need to come up with something half the time, and that's how they do that trick, is there's two of them.
Mike, what else do you do for like I know you do stand up. I know you read.
Yeah.
Like what else do you do? Do you see movies? Do you
For like relaxation.
Yeah, like
Do you ever turn your brain off?
you go to sporting events? Like what else do you do? You cook?
Great question. I love when I get do you ever turn your brain off question, because I almost invariably get that question like when I'm on like a fun podcast. So like, wow, zip zap zop, we're zinging and zooming and all around, does it ever stop? I'm like, yeah, when I'm not on a podcast it slows down a little bit, like not all the time, but I would say most nights when I'm not performing, like I don't have it after this is the last thing I have scheduled for today. After this, like Rini had some potential plans to go meet some friends she knows from the sign language community. She has been learning ASL for the past year, and she loves it.
Do you know it too?
She is teaching, like she has been taking classes on a weekly basis since last September, with like a break here and there, and she goes to like, I'd say often multiple events a week while we're in town. And so like is like fluent. Deaf people have asked her if she is deaf, because she is like, she has a natural kinesthetic intelligence. And it was like, she's like, thinks that she has, previously she'd be like, kind of, I don't even think in words, like, so that this is actually a more natural kind of language, a more natural communication style for her, like related to the body and movement and dance and, and sort of visual spatial storytelling. And so that, which is not necessarily my initial, way to interact with the world and create. Like I have a physical body also, but like, if you ask me, Mike, are you a physical comedian? I would say, am I made of matter, energy? Am I Jim Carrey? No. Am I made of matter, energy? No. I'm different. I'm ethereal. I'm nothing.
Does physics affect my body? Yes.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. Do I gravitate towards, larger masses than myself? Sure, if I have to. But the point is, I think Rini might need to rest more than go out. Right. So if she stays in, we'll watch a movie, we'll watch a show. Like we just started watching Pluribus, and it's incredible. I assume you're watching it or will be.
I'm going to be watching it soon on Apple TV. I've messed with Vince Gilligan hard. Did you watch Frankenstein?
Not yet, no.
Okay, all right. I love Frankenstein.
Yeah, I think Frankenstein, Rini in 2018 embarked upon a mission to read all of the great works of literature. As you look at a top 100 literature of all time, like starting with Moby Dick, Annie Karenina. That's a different one. That will come out tomorrow. But Dickens and the Brontes and
the classics, quote unquote.
She loves Frankenstein, and she thinks it's like beautiful and meaningful, and like I'm also planning to read it before we watch the new movie. I know the new movie is not necessarily an exact faithful.
Well, I think it's interesting because when I watched it, when they got done at the end, it's like written for screen by Guillermo del Toro, and I was like, man, I never thought about this, but like using the story we already know is like such the cool shortcut. Cause like it's like stuff you can leave out. I was like, guys, it's Frankenstein. You didn't come in here. You didn't know nothing. Like you need some of this shit. Like we can skip past. He's made of parts. Like listen, we don't even get into the science of shit.
We can leave one of the parts out, and the part that we can leave out is that he's made of parts. No, we gotta piece all together all the parts. But my understanding is that as a child we just think of Frankenstein. Before you know anything about Frankenstein, you're like, oh, big green monster, obviously, and big.
The fact that he's not Frankenstein.
Oh,
like
sure.
the doctor's Frankenstein, and he's Frankenstein's quote unquote monster, and then it becomes like a treatise on like what is a monster, who's the real monster. All the cliche tropes, but tropes are good because they work. Like that's why we like
monster is. Yeah, the real monster is people who correct you as to which one the real monster is. Be like,
Yes.
look, they're both Frankenstein. Look, Frankenstein the monster is actually the child, in a way, of Frankenstein the
Right.
doctor, whose last name is Frankenstein, so they probably have the same last name. Oh, please, Dr. Frankenstein, that's my father's monster. Anyway, the point
He's a
is...
Frankenstein of our time too, because like he's sexy Frankenstein. Okay, this guy,
Frankenstein.
he's like 6'7" of nothing but cum gutters and just just muscles and stuff. And the only thing is he looks a little too good, so that when like the one woman has compassion and starts kind of like being nice to him, you're like, she just want to fuck Frankenstein. You know what I mean? I feel like Guillermo took it a little.
Was in them pants.
Yeah, he took it a little too far with how handsome the Frankenstein was. Because I'm like, I actually don't think this woman is being that compassionate. I just think this man's very attractive, as opposed to the one with the fish where she fucked the fish. That one, I was like, that lady is special. She's different. She's got empathy galore, because nobody looks at the fish man as like, I got to get up in them gills, you know?
Oh yeah, this woman's like, I just want to frank around and find out, you know?
Yeah.
And but yeah, so we have some shows that we are watching. Like we watched The Studio together, which is
I love The Studio.
But yeah, so at night, that is our general, our general
something.
practice. Yeah, we
go
watch together, we eat.
Theaters.
Yeah.
You go out to movie theaters, or you mostly a stream couple?
Mostly at home. I will say before the pandemic, I did have like a movie pass or like an AMC, and so there was a time when I think for me to be healthy, it's better for me to not have one of those memberships, because I get too obsessive. I'm like, look, I'm paying for it. So in order to get the most out of it, the most movie for my dollar, I'm like just packing my week with movies. And I'm like, I got to live my life and do other things.
That is the toughest part. I'm a part of one of these movie clubs, I think it's Fandango, but Fandango's like the perfect kind of movie club, because like, you pay $10, but then they give you a $10 like credit towards a movie every month. So it's not like they're telling you like you need to see all the movies. They're like, see a movie. You see a movie in 30 days, you broke even.
It's worth.
Everything's cool. Movies cost too much anyway. And I'm like, cool. So like, there's months in the year where to me the movies aren't hidden. They're not leave the house hidden.
No, you know? Like I'll wait till streaming.
Yeah, like you get to October, everything's scary or whatever. You're like, I'm okay with scary. But then like there's a couple times a year where, there's like 3 or 4 movies in the summer I want to see in a month or whatever. Like, but I never feel the pressure. Like the movie pass pressure was real, because it's like a constant equation in my head of like, must see enough movies to make movie pass regret decision to give me a card.
Yeah. And so when the pandemic struck, obviously watched everything online. And then the first movie we went back out to and saw in a theater was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was like, that was a great theater movie. And then since then, I've probably maybe gotten up close to double digits, but truly in the past 4 years have definitely not seen probably more than a dozen movies in theaters. And most of them have been because I've been a guest on a podcast that's going to discuss Black Panther 2 or the movie that I just saw about a con man that was a real story, The Mastermind, I just saw, and that was enjoyable. Or I saw one of the latest Fast and Furious, because I went on this, my friends have a movie podcast, and I'm like, I love the Fast and Furious movies. They know what they are, and I love what they are. It's about family.
Fast and Furious is the best, because it went from like unintentionally terrible to actually like at some point really like, this is just a good movie. Like I remember leaving like Fast 5 that had the Rock in it or whatever. I was like, no, I just straight up enjoyed that
one.
Like there's not a joke here.
That's the one that brought me back. I watched the first one and I was like, I get it. And then I don't think I watched 2 through 4. And then I saw the preview for Fast 5, which is the one where there's a heist and they're driving with the whole vault from the bank, around the city. Yeah. And I was like, I gotta see that. And
trailer ever.
I said,
And
these motherfuckers right here,
They know why I came.
They know they're making a movie. I'm into that.
absolutely. Jason Statham makes incredible movies, the Crank movies, the Transporter movies. Like, yeah, they know what they're doing. They're doing
Statham
it.
At this point, I feel like his scripts are just like not written. I think they come up with the title, and the title has a slight hook to it.
Yes.
And because the last one I watched was A Working Man, and I was like,
I saw that.
But everything before The Working Man was like insert job title here. It's like, oh, he's a beekeeper. Yeah. And so I was like, Working Man feels like the title I tell you the movie was when I can't remember the title. Like, you're like, what's that Jason Statham movie? So I'm like,
he was yeah. He was like, working.
You had a job.
I don't remember.
He's like the working man. He's working. You know what I'm talking about? Like they barely had anything in the Working Man that was that like normal. Like with the beekeeper, there's like 27 bee related things.
Yes, it is.
Like it's like to the point where y'all like it's almost a comedy because you're just like, why would he need to say it's time to make the honey when he's gonna kill 12 people? That's not a thing that people that kill 12 people say normally. But in A Working Man, it's like they were so lazy. They was like, I don't know. He tortures the guy, but he's holding a hammer. Yeah.
Working Man holds. Gotta name it something. You know what I mean? And that's a really great observation that so many of his movies are just like one word job.
The title. Transporter.
That's it.
Like, what does he do? Transport things. Okay, and in between transportation, does he murder 30 people? Yes, that's the hook of the movie.
If they're getting in the way of him doing his transportation, if they just got out of the way, then he would just be an Uber driver. But
yes, he would be.
To answer, that's the next one. Look for this fall.
His agent is just sending him a list of job titles. They're not even. He's like, what do you want to do next, man? We got ride share. You know what that's about. I don't need to explain it. We have the grocery bagger. I'm into this one. I'm not gonna tell you what to do though.
Jason Statham in TaskRabbit. Yes. The one tortoise doesn't have an idea of what he's in for. Anyway, this is so fun.
I was thinking about the Uber driver being like the most deadliest food run ever.
The other great thing about Jason Statham movies at this point, he's just playing Jason Statham.
Yes.
So all the movies have just stopped trying to explain his accent.
No, why?
Because the movies mostly happen in America, and there's like, I'm Myq Jones, the detective for the Seattle Police Department. And it's like, why do you have a British accent?
That accent.
No one. I'm Jason Statham, and I promise that won't come up.
Right. No one cares.
That's so funny. Jason Statham in DoorDasher. Now, I do want to answer your question. Like, we're having a lot of fun here, which is the purpose of this podcast. But I also like completing circuits and closing parentheses. Here is what else I do. So let's say on a day like right now I do podcasts professionally. I'm on podcasts like helping to promote the special. That's what I've been doing for like the past month. Went to LA, did 11 days there, 11 shows, 11 podcasts, and a bunch of like hanging out with friends. But on a day, let's say I have a week at home, I'm not traveling I'll do shows at night, but let's say I wake up, with just natural, hopefully with no alarm. I'll read something peaceful while drinking, a liter of water to get started. I'll meditate. I'll do some just writing, like stream of consciousness, not for a purpose, just maybe gratitude journaling, keeping a journal of like what went on yesterday. And then, other than like going into my email, like I message friends, I talk on the phone with my mom and Zach Sherwin, who most days. And then some days I have other, like every Wednesday, I sort of have a steady call with my friend Gus, who sometimes we study Buddhism together. Sometimes we just catch up while we're walking. But I read. I'm really into advice columns. I'm into comic books. I'll go. The library is a half-hour walk from my home, so I'll often,
What comic books you read?
Oh, I read tons. Lately, I'm really into I go by authors usually now. Like Tom King is really great.
Yeah, he did a Batman run a couple years ago.
His
crazy.
Batman run is beautiful. And so
Batman, he did Catwoman as like a relationship and that's like,
Yeah.
oh man, will they? Won't they? They won't, but they will.
But
Try.
they kind of, there's like a version of it where, you know, you see future them as well in some of
Yeah.
the stories that he's telling. And like, I love Jason Aaron, who is doing,
Mhm.
you're reading the Absolute DC comics right now.
I just started Absolute Batman like 2 days ago because everyone kept telling me about it. And at first, the art was turning me off because I was like, when the fucking Hall of Fame calls and they look back on the Absolute era, they're going to really question the steroids because
Oh my god,
I
I haven't
think
even read it, but I look like
some of these
what is
characters
happening?
are definitely on PEDs, but I
Yes,
guess
they
we're all
are.
just gonna pretend this is Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and act like this is real. But okay, I'm in and I'm reading it now.
Oh yeah, so like I mean, it's obviously like some Batman is like they try to make it realistic, but
Yeah,
this one
this
like
is
there's I
Fast
think
and Furious.
he literally at I think one issue ends with like, okay, so he just rode a motorcycle out a building or off a cliff 1,000 feet up, and the next issue they're like, he figured it out, you know, whatever
Yeah,
it is. Like he's
that like
Batman.
they introduced Alfred in the first like they introduced the story through Alfred, who's returning to town, and he's some type of like almost like a mercenary or something. But like Alfred like gets tea from a store, like it really does feel like Fast and Furious wrote it. Like I'm not joking.
Oh,
Like he gets the tea,
absolutely.
he's like,
Hilarious.
the only thing I love about this town is the tea. And then like someone steals his bike or some shit, and he's like, I fucking hate this city. And I was like, what is this?
Man. Starring Jason Statham as Alfred. Incredible.
Oh my god, yes.
Truly that you really
what would we call it? Would be called the butler.
yeah.
Yes.
That's perfect.
I'm
But
CW. I'm here for it.
so that one, the Batman one, is the one that I read third because I was even more interested in Jason Aaron's Absolute Superman is really awesome. Like basically, you know, for those that don't know, it's like a new dimension, a new universe, like where you've started the stories over. In one of them, like not to reveal too much, but Batman, both his parents don't die and he's not rich. And then, okay, what else happens? And then Superman, he doesn't come to Earth as a baby. He comes as a teenager and then different things happen. Right. Wonder Woman, instead of being raised, Wonder Woman might be my favorite of them. I love the Superman. I love the Wonder Woman. I really like the Batman, but the Wonder Woman one, instead of being raised on an island with all the other Amazons, she's raised only by Cersei in the underworld, in like the realm, in the hellish realm. And so she becomes a very, like, she still has her heart, her spirit. She's still a hero, but she's like tougher and different. And there's I'll tell you one really funny moment in it. I think it's just beautiful art and incredible writing. She's talking to Steve Trevor, you know, the guy who in the original story is like, you know, her love interest, and he washes up on the shores of the Amazon island. And in this one, when he meets her, like they're like looking eye to eye, and he says, wow, you're tall. And she's like, I'm the same height as you. And he's like, oh yes, but where I come from in my world, I'm very tall, and women where I'm from are not as tall. There's like no women who are as tall as I am, as tall as you are. And then she says something like, is that important? And he's like, I guess it's not. And then she's like, well, tell me more about the place that you come from, but things that are important. I'd love to know what's important. I was like, what a beautiful like treatise, like a meditation on like, don't comment on people's bodies. That's not important. Like, what is more meaningful? Like, let's you know, get that evil thing back where it needs to go to.
Have you ever read I've been reading this graphic novel, it's called Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, who wrote it?
Like, it's like Berenstain Bears meets Dexter. It's like about a serial killer bear.
Oh, yes, I absolutely did.
It was so good. It was. I really didn't think I'd be into it, and I didn't know where the book was going. And it's graphic, but it's also adorable. And he just started book 2, which I've been reading.
I'm excited to know that. That's so cool. So you know what it's doing? Like, I forget if we've ever talked about this, but there's a guy named Peter McGraw who is a social scientist who wrote a book called The Humor Code, where he was aiming to sort of analyze like what makes like laughter, what makes something funny, and his theory is benign violation, like which goes back evolutionarily to, like, let's say you're a cave person and the bushes rustle near you, you get scared that you're going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, so it's like, oh no, a violation, but then your friend jumps out of the bushes and you're like, oh, thank goodness, and you laugh because you're relieved that you're not going to die because it's not a violation, it's benign. And so, like, in comedy, take like Sarah Silverman, her original, like when she was more of like a satirist, and like you could look at her stuff written down and you're like, if a person really believed this, they would be racist, they would be, this would be a bad way to, this is a bad look. But when you know that she is doing it, from a good-hearted place to lampoon racism, for example, you're like, you can at least be like, I understand that this is a different thing. It's not the violation that it appears to be. It's intended to be benign. And so I feel like that's what's going on in that graphic novel also. Like, if it was like photorealistic, like humans, it
it wouldn't
terrifying.
Work.
No, it wouldn't be good.
Like, bisected a fucking person, I'd be like, well, this guy is a sick this is a sick guy. And like, it's crazy because like his picture, the author's picture is on the back of the book and he's just like smiling or whatever. But since I read the book, now when I look at his picture, I'm like, this dude might be a serial killer. They should check his backyard. This book too good. Like, he got a serial killer look, but only if you read the book. If you just seen a picture of that dude before reading the book, it's like, oh, he seems like an author of some type. But he's a real sick fuck. Another thing I was thinking about specifically, and I don't do stand up, so I don't know how to necessarily make this funny, and I don't even know if it would be funny. But you know the term libtard?
I do know that term.
Okay.
Wait, no, what is it? No, go on. What if I I made it to 2025 and I'm like, what? I know about libs and I know about, never mind. Yeah, please continue.
So liberal, and then the R word is, I assume, the etymology of it. I'm not intimate with etymology, but that's fine. Doesn't seem very complicated.
Yes.
And I was like, man, they really like saying that about people. I think it's their way of saying the R word without saying the R word, which says something about them, because they're kind of saying like, I know the R word's wrong, but if I put lib in front of it. And I was like, why do they like that so much? Why do they keep saying it? And I was like, what if they're saying it because when people were saying the R word, they thought the RE was for Republican. And so now they're getting some get back, as opposed to them going, now it's a vengeance to call us a libtard. It's like, they're like, you've been wronging us since inception.
This whole time.
You started this whole thing, and we just need to explain to them that's never was the purpose of that word. You guys, we weren't talking about Republicans. That was not how that happened. That was a literal term.
Repubtards. No, that's not what it was.
That's not what it was. We would have said pub. We would have added it to there, and now it's a big misunderstanding. So we can all drop it. We can all stop saying it in all the forms. Now that's all been understood.
I love it. Let me just say that makes me think also, like, I think that could be a great, I mean, that's funny. It's great. You could become a stand-up, tell it. And also
it just feels like the kind of thing where a stand-up person would have to figure out where the landmine in that joke is. Cause I can feel you could lose a room easily.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you guys watch Mark Maron's newest special that came out a couple months ago? I think he does a great piece on that group of people who like saying that word, and does a good job of, as some might say, walking the line, and meeting them, like, I think where they need to be met, and not going, hopefully, farther than, you can't please all the people. But I think something that you included in what you said, like, speaks to something larger, which is the you started it of it all. And I think that there's so much you started it, he started it, they started it, that people use to justify, preemptively attacking or being like, you were gonna start it, or that. And that's why, and somebody needs to, like I think Maya Angelou has said, like, forgive everyone. Forgiveness is like the best gift that you can give to yourself, because if you keep perpetuating it, like, sure, it might feel good in the moment to like get someone, but they say, if you turn the tables on someone, you're still at the table. But like in a Buddhist paradigm, this world, like what's happening now is happening because of what happened before, causes and conditions. What happened before is because of what happened then. We are the result of what our parents' generation did, and theirs and theirs and theirs, and so far back to what they call beginningless time. So at a certain point, you can't be like, who started it? It's like, well, if we agree that it's not great, let's finish it.
It's also the mirror in the world, right? It's the whole, like, at least I'm coming to an understanding of there's certain things, if you squash it within yourself, or you accept it within yourself, is probably a better term than squash it. But if you like say, no, this is a thing in my control and this is my view of it, you, in some ways, you kind of entered the matrix, like, I know for me, a big thing, we talk about social media a lot here, and a big thing for me was learning how much of my perceptions of social media were they were like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So like, if I say something and 100 people understand it, a perfect example today, I said, I made a joke. Stephen A. Smith is this commentator. He's very annoying to most people, and he, for years, and there's a lot of black people that don't like him because he's like he's like conservative, he's like a weirdo, but he almost exclusively targets other black people whenever he's doing one of these like furious takedowns he does on his podcast and stuff. And so someone last week, Carrie Champion, was like, hey, you're always talking like this to all these other black people. There's this white lady, Michelle Beadle. She doesn't like you. She's been very loud about it for years. You never say anything to her. What the fuck is up with that? And of course he goes at Carrie Champion first because, she's still a black lady saying something. And then he goes after this white lady for the first time. And everybody was like, oh, he finally said something back. And then this news dropped today that he's no longer going to be on the NBA Monday Night Show or whatever. Now, this is not a punishment. This was planned in his contract. Nothing bad is really happening to him. But I made the joke from the screenshot of like the news and was like, he finally said something to a white lady and now look what happened.
Oh, Lord, that's hilarious.
Right, it's just a joke. Like, yes. I don't mean it.
Yeah.
Most people responded, ha, whatever, right? A couple people were like, well, this was always planned in his contract that he would step down from this eventually. And I was like, this joke was always planned when I found out in his contract he would step down eventually. But there was a time where I really would have let a couple people not getting a joke bother me more than 100 people that had fun gave me joy. Mm-hmm. And that's a complete mind frame. Like, that's not them, that's me. Like, I control if I get upset because, these two guys don't get it.
Right.
I'm going to explain it to them that they should get the joke. And then it is funny. And it doesn't mean I do know that what happened with Steve.
Right.
But a lot of that was within my control. So like, I do think a lot of that is that mirror, right? Because what I go back to is the times when I felt that way, like I'm going to correct them and they're going to see that I'm right and I'm going to show them. I don't care if it takes 30 minutes. That was my turmoil. That wasn't theirs.
Right.
Like, their turmoil might be what made them be like, I'm deciding to not be funny to this funny guy. Yes. But that's only something they can deal with. They can fix. And like, I really do feel like my life changed when I started thinking like that, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. It was just like, okay, yeah, you don't get it. That's a thing you get to have. That has nothing to do with me.
Right around when I came back on the podcast.
Yeah. It's almost as if.
Yeah, coincidence.
The epiphany happened.
You talk to a white person, and all of a sudden, yeah.
That's what I say. Changes. That's what happened to Stephen A. Smith.
Everything changes.
I've been on threads. I'll put jokes, and sometimes people will like, I consider myself a recovering argumentaholic, and I
Yeah.
used to go back and forth with people indefinitely, and it was
Same.
not healthy. And now, like, I'll give you one, and if you're not coming at me with, respect or good faith or kindness, then I'll stop. But I do understand, like, wanting someone to. Some people just don't get the joke. Sometimes
Right.
people are. I had one the other day. I put a thing about placebos, and I was like, because here's the truth is, and before I get to what I wrote, the truth is that I've learned that the placebo effect is real. Like, and even if you know that it's a placebo, that makes you feel better than not taking anything. And so I just posted something like, hey, I've heard that they say that placebos actually do help you feel better. So why aren't we all taking massive amounts of placebos all of the time? And like, I know why that's not a real thing that could work. Like, it's a joke. I'm a comedian. Most people took it that way. Some people wrote back and they're like, that's not how placebos work. In which case I like found some links and I'm like, actually, it kind of does work that way a little. And they want to do more research to determine, can we utilize the power that is under, that's going on here. Like, and so, but one person wrote back to me and said something like, a little scientific literacy would have prevented you from posting this. And I wrote back, why would I, a comedian, want to prevent myself from posting this, a joke? And they wrote back, well, I don't know that you're a comedian. I get a lot of medical things in my feed, and I looked at your profile and it doesn't even say anything about that you're a comedian. And I'm like, is that true? And I look and it says, I have a new special coming out. It doesn't say comedy special. I'm like, thank you for the note. I'm going to say it's a comedy special, and that I have a newsletter, and it does say comedy is one of my interests. It was there. I didn't see it. It was at the bottom, but I was like, that's a reasonable point too, to know that, especially, at a comedy show, I expect people to know that I'm a comedian. But online, truly, like, some people are comedians, some people are not comedians, some people are, Schrodinger's douchebags. Yeah.
The way that online is set up, the way the dopamine works, is more like the absolute value of things as opposed to the positive and negative.
Perfect way of putting it.
Yeah. So like, sometimes people, it's more valuable for them to misunderstand or to assume bad faith on your part, without you really interjecting. Like, oh, this guy's anti-science. And it's like, I don't know why you need that boogeyman, but today you're Monster Myq until proven otherwise. It's like, here he go, hating people that he want people that get cancer to take placebos and die. Like, they go to a place
that it shouldn't have to be.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because the ecosystem has elevated that type of stuff, right? Like, like, this is one of the hardest things about being funny now. For everything that I find humorous, there's a real person who's like, like, if I go, hey, if you get cancer, just drink water and take a walk, ha ha ha, because I think that's ridiculous. There's a guy, RFK Jr., who's running healthcare for America, who's like, if you get cancer, drink some water, take a walk. What the fuck? I'm in charge and I'm making the rules. So now my comedic thing is no longer
so absurd,
comedic, and or like, you would have to know me or have my same principles to know, oh, Rod's completely joking and haha. But it's not as funny in a world that's a real thing now. So I think about that too, because that placebo thing should, in a world where everyone's on the same page, where we all believe in science, we're like, oh, it's funny because it's the wordplay and the idea of the concept and all this stuff. But in a world where somebody's like, actually, guys, Tylenol causes autism, it's like, this motherfucker right here better be a comedian.
Right. Like, what's really happening to going on here?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, and there is no absolute objective truth. Like, here's a fun thing my Buddhist friend Gus shared with me. Like, is it true that the sun rises in the east? Yes. But wait, is it actually true that the sun doesn't move at all? And so it doesn't rise. It's actually the earth that's going around it. That's what's true. Wait, but is it true that the sun doesn't move at all? No, it's actually hurtling through the cosmos. Like our solar system, our galaxy is not still with respect to all of the other solar systems and galaxies. So it's not true. Is it true that the sun isn't moving? So all of those things, depending on the context, the sun rises in the east, or the earth revolves around the sun, or the sun is hurtling through space. Those are all true in different frameworks. You know what's false? The sun rises in the west. There are some things that are false, but nothing is objectively true. Here's the fun thing. At the end of the day, the sun rises in the east. No, at the end of the day, the sun sets in the west. The point is, nothing can be more true. He says, nothing is more true than the sun rises in the east. Like there's things that are equally true depending on your framework. And so when I do comedy, like I always want people to know what is true. Like there's some really beautiful comedy art, like what Nathan Fielder is doing, like with The Rehearsal. I don't know what he believes is true. And that's fine. I don't need to know. He's a magician. Magicians, we don't know everything that's going on with a magician internally. But for everyone else, like if you're a truth teller, I want to know it's the truth. I want to know if you're Sarah Silverman or if you're RFK Jr. when you're saying something that, like, am I to laugh at this, or is this, like, if Trump were an entertainer, it would be absolutely fine. He would be
There's people who
most
do
hilarious
impressions of Trump, and they're hilarious. JL Covan does an impression of Trump.
Yeah.
And it's so hilarious, but part of what's hilarious is that it's so accurate.
Yes.
Like he's picked up his phone and done an impression of Trump after hearing just like a story, and we don't even know Trump's response yet. And then Trump will respond exactly as JL did. And in the one hand, it makes what JL did so funny and uncanny. But then in real life, it makes what Trump did so scary, because you're like, oh, you're in charge of things. And when JL made up a joke that you would say that it's no big deal that the Crown Prince killed a journalist because things happen. That when he did that an hour ago, I was like, that's so Trump. Hilarious. That's so Trump. And then Trump does it, and I was like, we're so cooked. We're so cooked.
That's so Trump. Oh no. Yeah. That's what's great. Like it reminds me of the old when Stephen Colbert was on the Colbert Report, and he did the White House press correspondence dinner right next to George W. Bush during, the Iraq War. And he says like something like, this man is consistent. This man is steadfast. This man, he says about George W. Bush, he believes the same thing on Wednesday that he believed on Monday, no matter what happens on Tuesday. And like, that's what's happening. Like, so, and there's, Paul F. Tompkins is one of my favorite comedians who, when years ago, when it wasn't even before, like, people were anti-woke, when people were when they were un-PC, when they were politically incorrect, and people would ask, I think Paul was asked in an interview at that point, like, hey, what, isn't it bad that you can't say whatever you want to say? And he's like, if you want to say the same things you were saying 20, 30, 40 years ago, then you're a dinosaur who hasn't advanced. And like, I think most of us shouldn't want to be saying the exact same, like the words or the concepts. Like we're as human individuals and as a society, we're hopefully able to advance and progress and learn. And yeah, you thought something, but then there's people like, the ripple effect of like, the Eminem line that I like. He's like, like Will Smith needs to cuss to sell records. Well, Will Smith doesn't need to cuss.
Sell records, but I do. Well, so fuck him and fuck you too.
Yeah, like that's a funny line, and that's a real, and that's like so much of the comedy bro podcast verse now, that when people are doing it, like I love Doug Stanhope, and I don't think that he is one of that community, because he is a thoughtful artist, and but there are people who like look at, you can look at your Richard Pryors or your Doug Stanhopes or Bill Hicks's or Anthony Jeselnik's or, anyone who's doing something that's like a high wire act that really takes a lot of skill and work and perfect like wording and your heart in the right place to not just be like, oh, well, fuck you too then. Like people can listen to Eminem and be like, but there's so many people that are like, oh, you're saying I can't say this. Like, no, say whatever.
I think whatever. That was one of the saddest revelations in the last few years. And I feel like social media slash blog slash stand up taken out of context kind of did it all collaborated to create this weird reality. But one of the saddest things was finding out which people were like this is not a character, or like the comedic framing. I really am a piece of shit. Like where you're like, whoa, I thought this whole time, like the reason we're laughing with you is that you're letting us laugh at you because you're gonna go on stage and be like, I'm actually kind of wrong to do this.
Right.
And like when you pull that away, it takes something out of the art to where it's like, oh no, now you're just a guy who's on stage being a dick to everybody, and there's not a lot of fun to be had for us as an audience.
It's like if a magician was like, all right, I'm gonna need a $20 bill for this one, and then they just walk away with your money. You know, like, hey, that's not a trick. You just robbed me. Like, you're like, I thought I was watching the character Monster Myq played by the real human being Money Myq, but in reality, you know, inside of each of us, there's a Money Myq and a Monster Myq, and you know, one of them, like, which one is gonna win in the battle? And they're both pacifists, but they're the passive aggressive fists, you know, and they're going after each other, and you gotta feed the Money Myq, everyone. Feed the Money
Whichever
Myq.
Whichever one you feed is gonna get stronger, guys. The money or the monster. That's how we find out. Myq, tell people where to find your special. And
thank
all that,
you,
and you and all that other good stuff.
So yeah, Myq Kaplan, spelled my weird way, Myq Kaplan. That's my social media, that's my website, that's my Substack, myqkaplan.substack.com. I send out a newsletter for free every week and more if you subscribe. I've got all my albums and on the streaming places. I've got my podcast that you have both been on, and but mainly, yeah, I perform live. You can go to my website to find my dates.
Is your music album stuff still up too?
Yeah, on my Spotify there is, and I know Spotify is, I hope they stop advertising ICE soon, and I don't know what to do about that specifically, but
Spotify advertise ICE? I didn't even know this.
That was a thing I heard in the past couple weeks.
This is in our city right now in Charlotte, North Carolina, and my Ring and Neighbor app is just nothing but updates of like ice on this street, ice on that street.
Ice,
an emoji. It's crazy. Ice,
baby. Yeah.
Ice, losers.
What I say, and I posted this today, is like, no ice is noise, you know? And that's how you spell it. But if back to, sorry for the commercial for I'm not sorry for the commercial.
No, I prefer that. If Spotify is going to put a commercial in this that's for ICE, I hope that it comes right after the anti-ICE part that we just did.
Yeah, I love it.
But you know who's the real dickless loser? Those masked ICE fucks. And then the next thing you hear is like, join ICE if you want to be a great guy. I got a bunch of money for you. And then it comes back as like, because you be a real fucking asshole to do some shit like that.
A real ice hole. And yeah, but to answer your specific question, your generous question, the special that is called Rini, starting tomorrow, November 19th, 2025, 8 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, on my YouTube channel in collaboration with my producers at Blonde Medicine. So you can subscribe. Right now, you could go there and click notify me, and they'll send you a thing when it starts, and I'll be in the chat like this. It'll be exactly like this, except without you two, and I won't be interacting live as the human being, but I will be in the chat, chatting with people, engaging. So thanks for checking it out. Starting tomorrow at 8 or anytime thereafter until the universe ends or beyond. We're gonna try to keep it going beyond the universe. Yeah,
it's spelled Rini for those.
Rini, Rini.
Yeah, for those that are looking. Do you have any? I know you talking about the recording of the special, but do you have any live shows coming up that our audience, if they're out and about, could come and check you out live? I've never had the privilege of seeing you live. I am actually jealous. Roger have seen you live more than once, so eventually that's my goal, is to see you in person.
One time I didn't even know he was coming. I was just there, and then he showed up, and I was like, "Oh shit, Myq Kaplan's here!" It was awesome.
Yeah, and the one time he was in Charlotte, we were out of Charlotte.
Yeah.
Well, I got to get back down there. That is going to be my plan. And do you guys know Steve Hofstetter?
Steve, I don't think so. I
He
don't
is a
think.
comedian who's a good friend of mine, and I believe now here. I hope that this will not reveal. I'm going to reveal my ignorance, and my
Okay.
ignorance is that I know that Charlotte is a different town than Charleston, and
Right.
yet I always forget when somebody mentions one
Mm.
of them, which one the
We
other
all
one
have
like.
that. We all have that. I do this with Jamie Presley and Margot Robbie. It's not our fault. Like it
Yeah,
just
okay.
happens. Our brains
But I'm
crosswalk.
right. It is. So Steve he grew up in New York. He was living in Pittsburgh for a while and opened up a sort of a comedy collective there. But he recently, like earlier this year, moved to Charlotte. And so he's based down there
Oh,
and does a lot of shows, I think at Duckworth's maybe. And
okay, yeah.
Okay,
and
Duckworth
so
is starting to be the spot
Yeah,
down
we're
here.
going to
Yeah.
Duckworth. Yeah.
So, but he's a guy, I mean, so I don't have anything scheduled with him right now, but at some point I'm going to ask him and I'm going to try to get back down there. But I mean, so certainly people check him out. I should connect you guys because y'all would fuck with each other in the way that's good for that to go. I know that can mean two different things. You guys would really mess with each other. You guys would try to
Yeah.
play some mind games, but I will try to get down to Charlotte. Right now, I have shows this weekend in New York City, where I live. I'm actually doing a Don't Tell comedy taping on Friday, which I'm excited about.
What? Okay, let me ask you this. I
Yeah,
always hear people say "Don't tell." What is the hook of that show? Because the title sounds
sure.
counterproductive.
Well, so the hook of the show is like it's sort of akin to, you know how sometimes there's restaurants where they're like like the chef's choosing that you don't order what you're ordering, you just we're gonna bring you something good or we're gonna
I've done
serve it
that
to you
before.
in the dark, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
there's some kind of gimmick to it. And so what it is that the audience so Don't Tell has a few different legs or arms of their business. One of them, the one that I'm doing a taping, which is they will eventually be like on their website, and you can on their YouTube you can find a lot of great new comedians that way. Or some comedians that but for their live shows that aren't taped, basically in New York City, in New Jersey, in probably in every state. Like I know I've done them in Delaware, I've done them in California, people have done them, I know, in Florida, in Boston, like maybe even some in Europe. But their model is they book good comedians. Like usually a showcase where they'll have like a host and maybe 3 to 5 other comedians for an hour and a half show, somewhere certainly not more than 2 hours, usually between an hour and a half. And the audience does not know the exact location of the show or the comedians that are going to be on the show until the day of the show. Like, the basic neighborhood. Like in New York, you might, if you go on, there's probably some in Charlotte or somewhere, not too far a drive from you. Sometimes. Yeah, some of them they do like one a month. Sometimes like in I think Delaware they do multiple shows a weekend because they don't have any comedy clubs full time in Delaware that do shows every weekend. So like I did 2 shows like early in January of this year. I went down and did 2 shows in a comic book store on Friday and 2 shows in the back of a restaurant on Saturday. And so the other thing is it's like usually not a standard performance space. It could be like a gym. I've done a lot of them in gyms, like a barbell gym or an archery range and because like they're businesses that if they're not being used at night, they're like the space is available. So Don't Tell producers will come in and just set up lights. They'll set up the sound system. They'll set up chairs. They'll make it look cool. And then they'll just have like a really cool indie, like, it's like, and the experience is that it's a surprise. It's a novelty at first, but then because most of their shows are packed and good, you're like, oh, that was great. Kind of the same way that you go to the Comedy Cellar, whether or not you know who's performing that night, you trust that the Comedy Cellar is going to have a good lineup. You can look who's there at the Comedy Cellar, but sometimes even the biggest names won't put their name on the lineup. They'll put
Right,
like
that
a
just
pseudonym,
show
and
up.
you're like, well, I don't know who Joe Jablonski is, but maybe it's Jim Norton, you know? And
Okay.
so same deal, you go to a Don't Tell show because you're like, oh, I've heard these are good. You experience that it's good, and then you tell your friends about it. And I mean, it's called Don't
Which
Tell
kind of
just because
violates
of,
the
yeah.
rules, but yeah, because then
Yeah,
you tell.
you
But
are. Yeah, they're like, hey, don't tell, but really, like, it's the absolute value of don't tell, which is
right,
tell. You understand? They're
right.
like, we're
Yeah,
telling you don't
absolutely.
tell, but you're gonna tell. And so they've built, and then yeah, they've had over the past many years, like really, some people's, like my friend Liz Glazer did a taping, I think last year, and it came out, I think, earlier this year. And like, I know, I don't remember exactly how many views it got on YouTube, but you know, the first couple days, like some tens of that, like maybe 40,000 views, but then they chop it up into, you know, reels and TikToks and stuff. And some of her clips had like millions of views. So they've got a good comedy mechanism going. So they're like, I'm happy to work with them and be in business with them, and, you know, advertise, definitely support, don't tell, don't support ICE. Those are my
There you go.
policies.
I agree.
But yeah,
And
so
what
that's
was, yeah, go back to
that,
your shows. I'm sorry
yeah.
to
Yeah.
Oh
interrupt,
yeah,
but
no,
Yeah,
that's
I
where
get
I'll
I have
be.
a question that's plagued me for years.
Yeah, that's where I'll be in like this weekend. And then I have shows mostly around New York City into into December, when I've got like maybe one in New Jersey, and then mid-December I've got some shows in the Ohio area, so Western Pennsylvania, then several in Ohio. I'll be doing New Year's in New Jersey. And then, you know, in the coming months going forward, I've got some shows out in the Chicago area. I've got some shows in DC. And, you know, if you look at my website or Myq Kaplan, punchup.live/Myq Kaplan, I put my tour dates there. And if I'm not in a city near you, ask the venue that has comedy that you love nearest you to bring me. And hopefully, if enough people do that, they'll be like, well, we're going to bring them. So I'll work on it from my end, but it's certainly, you know, the power of the people can help.
And I
as
assume
well.
you're doing all those shows outside of New York because Mamdani's gonna be the mayor, and you're scared because he's gonna bring the socialists. The socialist
Actually,
9/11 is coming.
Actually, Rod, what the truth is that when I was in California when the election happened, I voted early. We went to California. I did a bunch of shows. And so then he was voted in on, like, I think November 4th or so, and I flew back on the 7th, and I was like, because Mamdani won, I'm returning to New York. That's what I'm going to New York because Mamdani won.
Right. That's hilarious.
And that's a joke. That's true.
That's the magic trick, folks. All right, y'all. That's my man, Monster Myq, the money monster Myq. He's a monster on the mic. Make sure you guys go see him in person. And we'll be back for our premium listeners. We'll be back tomorrow because we're doing our sports show, and it's gonna be a good one. There's a lot of sports happening, everybody, and lots of stories that are sports adjacent, which is where we come in. We don't really talk that much about the sports,
And
but
we actually got a sale going on.
And we have a sale going on right now. Our annual African American Friday sale has started starts earlier and earlier every year. Unlike the stereotypes, our African American sale is never late. It's always running on early people time. And you can get it on Patreon now, and you can also get it on our website. And if you ever have issues, email us to blackouttips@gmail.com. I'll address it. I'll email you. I'll talk to you. I'll walk you through it. And yeah, that's it for now. So until next time, I love you.
I love you too.
Mwah.
I love you.
Bye, everybody.